This is DeFi Dragoon, and it's time to talk about Wonderland. So, as many of you may have heard in the news, there's a lot of drama surrounding the founders, and one of the sleuths has actually uncovered a something that's a pretty big deal, actually, in my opinion, that the CTO is in fact a convicted felon and is part of a rug pull, I believe, for the amount of 169 million. And turns out that the founder had no idea. He claims that in over texts that he did not know this until a little bit after the fact. He did not know this until more recently, which in my opinion is just a poor reflection on the entire team, and just begs the question of what is the due diligence that goes into Wonderland. And it's a teachable moment. What is the due diligence that goes into these decentralized economies in general? So like everything, a loss is actually an opportunity if you let it be. So if we actually take a look, you can see here, I took a snapshot of Danielle Sesta's Twitter, and he said, today I received at least 50 death threats. And then you can see down at the bottom here, somebody said, this week I lost my savings and I have 2 small children, dude. My heart goes out for you, Eli. But the thing is, one of the things that I say, and this is not investment advice, I'm not a financial advisor, please consult your financial advisor. But if you're going to be playing with money, play with money that you can afford to lose. And with that in mind, I'll show you what I was doing while this stock was tanking, just for the fun of it, because hey, it's money to play with. So if we go down to this screenshot here, you could see that I was shopping around for the best interest rates that I could while the stock was crashing, and I came across Yield Wolf Finance. And if you aren't familiar with Yield Wolf is pretty awesome in that it is an aggregator for multiple staking protocols across various platforms, not just Phantom. You have BSC as well. And what it does is it's an auto compounder. So whereas you may have to go into your specific dApp, your specific decentralized app, and elect to recompound your staking rewards, what happens is Yield Wolf actually does that for you. And if we pull up Yield Wolf's page, we could take a look here. Sure enough, I'm on the Phantom network. And let's scroll down and see if Memo is still here. Oh, it turns out that Memo, yes, there it is, Memo. See that they're still offering 1,087%. But if we go back to my snapshot of yesterday, it was offering almost 3.5 billion% APY, and then accruing at 4.8% daily. So I said, hey, you know what? I'm just going to throw in the 72 US dollar equivalent that I have left, and let's see what happens. So I rode that for a little bit, and this was well before I actually listened to a couple of bits of news and found out, in fact, that the CTO was a convicted felon. At which point I said, hey, you know what? I might as well use what's left of my Memo and convert it to gas fees. So I went over to Spooky Swap, and I swapped what was left of my W Memo for FTM. And I think that's the best bet one could make. At a certain point, you just have to cut your losses. But yes, if we go back over to Yield Wolf, you can actually see that if we go to W Memo, we go in, it seems like a sizable APY, especially for an interest-bearing token like W Memo that has something along the lines of, even now about 80,000%. So 80,000% APY, that is. And if you scroll down, one of the cool features about Yield Wolf is that it has a compounding bounty. And the way that this works, if we read it, it says, this bounty is given as a reward for compounding the vault for all users. When you successfully claim the bounty, you receive 0.3% of the vault's pending rewards. You can learn more in our documentation. So essentially, if we look at this compounding bounty is actually accruing. And It's accruing in Frog, which is Frog Nation. And if we go over to CoinGecko and check out Frog Nation, if I could spell Frog Nation. Yeah, so we're going to Frog Nation. Turns out, they're well down from their previous valuation, 47.9%. And that's a nasty looking chart. But hey, I figured at the point which it was 3.5 billion percent, what's 72 bucks? Let's see what we get. Again, that was until I found out that the CTO was just a straight up not upstanding individual. So that being said, if we go back to Yield Wolf, we can see that in this bounty, if you're able to click compound and your gas fees are low enough, you could actually make some money collecting the bounty. So one trick is, if you're sitting around and you have some time on your hands, why not listen to some music, have a snack, watch this bounty accrue. And I'd say if you know that your gas fees on FTM are anywhere from let's say 10 cents to $3, if no one else is paying attention and this thing goes up to $5 and you click compound, hey, that's a little extra cash for you there. Not to mention, if you're in the pool, you can actually accrue double fold because you're collecting the bounty and you're compounding on your balance. Unfortunately, in the case of Memo, that's not really, there's not really much around that at this point. Because if we also look at WMemo, so here's something. It's actually shot back up, which is kind of interesting. So potentially there's a rebound. I would say this is due in part to the Treasury potentially engaging in buybacks. But one of the important things is you got to look at the project. You got to look at who's involved. You got to look at their judgment. And again, if I go back to this screenshot, nobody should receive death threats, just as, Eli shouldn't have staked his life savings. But at the same time, if the individuals involved in the project are not exercising good judgment, then it could go up 100-fold. But I'm not about being a part of a project where the individuals are not exercising good judgment and not doing their due diligence. Because like I said, even though this is money that you're playing with, you don't want to just jump blindly into a project. If you're going to ape in, as they say, it's better to ape in after you've done some research. And, unfortunately, people have done some research and they believe that Daniel Sesta and his crew was above board. But, if you're not able to understand that your CTO is actually a convicted felon, and you're also coming out with a public statement saying, I'm willing to give him a second chance provided he's voted back in, or something to that effect. If you're willing to do that, I don't really want to have much to do with you in terms of where my money goes, play money or not, and that's just me. So last thing I would do is I'm just going to show you again. There was that APY, so I figured before I sold, I might as well see, what I could get out of the meager portions, the meager scraps of wonderful memories, or WMemo, that I had left. So you see, once it's staked, you can see that there's the deposit, and you can see the history, and then you could see as soon as I had deposited it, it actually had gone down. But I figured I had the pending Frog Nation tokens that would then be recompounded into my memo balance. So you can see also, because it cost me 5 cents to approve and stake my memo, my W memo, I said, hey, might as well give it a shot. But what's funny is you also see the discrepancy between when I chose to stake my balance, the APY, and then how much the APY increased because there was such a large price drop. So another thing to keep in mind is that your annual percentage yield, while it is a large number, is not necessarily the return that you would be getting, simply because the most important thing that you want to pay attention to is the percentage of daily accrual, which in that case was 4.87%. This APY can fluctuate depending on how the pool is structured. And also, given that WMemo and Time Wonderland had a kind of fuzzy tokenomics, that APY could be reliant on the entire pool and the liquidity that that pool provides when it's staked out into the various blockchains. And that could be then divided amongst people in the pool. So again, this large APY is meant to attract people, which again, that's kind of why I said, hey, let me join. But point in fact, I actually lost money joining this pool, despite it being an auto compounder. So if we go back to Yield Wolf, I think the point to take away from everything here is, even at a loss, even when you lose your money, let it be a lesson. So one of the lessons that I took from this is, I had fun. I learned about more about decentralized finance. I also learned about Yield Wolf. And in turn, I learned the difference between dealing with, say, a large APY and the daily percentage at which you accrue rewards. So for my next video, if you're interested, drop a comment, and I'm happy to talk about Tomb Finance, as you see here. And then also on the BSC Smart Chain, if we switch over to that, you'll see that there's something called EMP money here. This has been DeFi Dragoon, and if you like what you've heard, feel free to comment, like, and subscribe, and share this video. And I'll see you in the next one.